Does Monday at the office feel like a storm? Not with Microsoft Copilot. That feeling when Copilot gets everyone up to speed instantly? It's sunny again. When Copilot simplifies complex data so your teams can act, that sun's shining on a beach. And when Copilot uncovers hidden insights, you're on that beach with your people, and you find buried treasure. That's Microsoft Copilot. Learn more at Microsoft.com/AI for all.
Making everyone happy on vacation isn't easy. But you know what is? Going to Aruba. All you have to do is walk out your door to find pristine pools, relaxing white sand beaches, and an island teeming with outdoor activities that'll put a smile on any face. You won't just feel great, you'll all feel great, filled with a calmer, more peaceful vibe that radiates Aruba's warmth. And the best part is, it never fades. That's the Aruba effect. Plan your family trip at Aruba.com.
When we think about friendship, we often imagine a relationship that is easy, positive, and lasts through the seasons of life without interruption. But in our experience, friendship is just not that simple. Today, we give our honest opinions on some of the most common challenges in friendship, brought to us by our beloved listeners, including how to handle big transitions, slow fades, and even bitter ends. You're listening to Honest Women, the podcast for every woman who's trying to juggle the relationships, roles, and responsibilities that come with modern womanhood and finding it all just a little harder than she thought it would be. We're your hosts, Andrea Berkeley
and Jessica Hutchison, your new besties who just happen to be therapists. And while we believe that life is hard and there's no tip or trick that will solve that, it does get just a little bit easier when we can be real with each other and talk about it honestly.
You're listening to Honest Women. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Andrea.
Oh, how are you feeling today?
I sound even ruspier than usual.
It's true.
I have one of those early spring annoying colds where you're not sick necessarily. I can still get ready and function. You just feel like you're functioning at half capacity. I hate colds. I think they're so annoying.
The thing that's so annoying about colds is that when you're a woman and a mom, it's just not that obvious that you've got something that needs attention. Like, I feel like I have to be basically one step from the hospital for everyone around me to get that I need some downtime.
Bingo.
And a cold just doesn't do it, but you feel shitty.
Oh, totally. And then it's like, well, what's your problem? Why are you crappy? It's like,
Right.
Can you not hear my voice? Like, my throat is hurting and my sinuses are congested. And they're like, oh, well, can you get me a glass of water?
Right. Can you do everything you do normally? By the way, thanks.
I also have a new episode title for a new episode called Man Cold versus Mom Cold.
It is not even close to the same thing.
Different books.
Very, very true. So this episode is all about friendship, but before we get into it, I just wanted to say that if you're listening to this show right now, you are our friend. We love you a lot.
We do.
I know that I love doing nice things for my friends. I know Jess is the same. So we have decided to do a little giveaway.
Giveaway.
We know what we need at all times is caffeine. We have talked before about how much we love coffee. We're drinking coffee. We're pouring coffee. And so we want to share some coffee with you. So if you would like to enter the giveaway, this is what you need to do. Take a screenshot of yourself listening to this episode right now, post it on Instagram, and tag us. It's at Honest Women Podcast. Very easy to remember. And then you are entered into the giveaway to get some coffee for free, which is a pretty great thing.
Can I enter?
No.
Okay, darn.
I mean, I guess you could enter and then you could also pay for it. That's fine.
Yeah, that's irrelevant. That's just stupid. See, it's the congestion in my brain.
It's all right. Like we said, we haven't had enough coffee yet this morning.
Yet.
But we would love to do this for you. And we also would just love if you share us with your friends. It means the world to us, and so do you. You mean the world to us.
Can I tell you a cute story really quick?
Yeah.
We were reviewing my daughter's spelling words this morning, and one of them was honest. And she goes, oh, this one's a breeze. And she goes, and I'll even tell some of my friends just to think of my mom's podcast because their moms listen to your podcast and they say they'll sometimes come in the kitchen and just see her mom's face on the Alexa screen.
That's so funny.
Isn't that so cute?
Yeah, I totally got caught listening to our own podcast this week by my kids. Which honestly, guys, is just a quality check. But to be fair, I enjoy our podcast.
I told my son last night, I said, I listened to it. And he goes, wait, you listen to your own podcast? I go, yeah. It's kind of like when you're running for president of the United States, you go in and you vote for yourself. It's the same concept. And he goes, oh, can you vote multiple times? I'm like, okay, you're losing the point here, buddy.
Right. You want to be like, honest women, it's so good. Even we listen to it. That should be our new tagline.
That's our new tagline. I love it.
Done. Oh, let's jump into friendship. Okay, so friendship, I think it's one of the most important kind of relationships that we can have for our overall wellness and our happiness, but it gets so little airtime compared to romantic relationships, especially like once we start dating and get married. Why do you think that is?
A couple things. One, I just don't think we prioritize it. It's one of the things that is easily brushed to the side. Also, I think we feel guilty about it sometimes. As moms, I need to be a better wife. I need to be a better mother. I need to do my job or get this done. And friendships are an easy one to push aside and or feel guilty if you're spending too much time with your friends.
Yeah. I also think that we have a built-in system for friends as we grow up, right? You're in grade school, middle school, high school, and then college. Sometimes the pinnacle of the friend world where you're all together, you live together, you do everything together, if you're lucky. And then you graduate and you enter a dead zone.
Yes, you do.
Especially if dating is the thing on your mind. If you're like, I got to go find my person. That focus shifts over to romantic relationships at the same time that the infrastructure for friendship falls apart. But friendship really is not optional. It's just not. Even if you're married, honestly, I think especially if you're married.
I think as a couples therapist, and tell me if you see the same thing, that when there's a reliance just on your partner, it creates a lot more disappointment because one person is expecting the other person to provide what multiple people need to provide.
Oh, absolutely. I can definitely say the seasons of my life where I have good friendships, it changes everything. But it is so funny that we treat this thing that can make all the difference in the world as just so optional, like a nice to have, not a need to have. Also, while we treat it as optional, we do kind of have expectations for our friendships.
Yes, we do.
Like big ones. What are your expectations of friendship?
If we're going to generalize, I would say you get what you give. So it feels on average like it's 50-50. In one season, it might be 80-20. In another season, 60-40. But at the end of the day, the average is 50-50.
Yeah. We expect our friendships to be very equal. I also think that we just expect our friendships to be easy. Sometimes we expect that not only will we have a friend, we expect that we'll have a group of friends, and we expect that we'll be friends lifelong. That's definitely a picture that we have culturally, that we'll meet in kindergarten and then we'll be friends through it all. It's interesting. Sometimes I honestly think that our expectations of friendship are higher than our expectations of a romantic partnership.
I think there can be a lot less grace
Yes.
with friendships. It's kind of like, I asked you to help me and you weren't there for me. Therefore, this relationship is not what I thought it was.
Right. Oh, much less grace, much less of a sense that we're committed. So the whole thing feels more tenuous, right? Like it just feels like it could disappear at any moment. Maybe that's just my stuff coming up.
Maybe. If I look at the friendships I have and the people who are the closest to me, they are ones that I do not talk to or see on a daily basis. But when we are together, we are our most authentic self.
Yeah.
And if I'm having a bad day and I'm being a little edgy or rough, or I might come at one of them a little harder, it is so easy to repair because they know my true intentions and my true character. And there's substantial grace in that.
You're talking about the kind of relationship I think we all aim for.
Oh, for sure.
So this is definitely a very popular topic in therapy. It comes up all the time. And it's also a very popular topic with our listeners. So I don't know if you guys know this, but you can actually write into the show and let Jessica and I know what you want to talk about. And we will talk about it.
We sure will.
So we got some questions from listeners about friendship that we're going to read.
Why do I get so excited about that?
It's very exciting.
I know.
And then we are going to respond to them in our trademark honest way. And hopefully you'll get something out of this.
And I'll do a little chicken dance for you as I answer your question.
Just going to keep doing that dance.
I know.
All right. First letter. Dear honest women. Okay. I added that part because it sounds good, doesn't it?
It does.
I added that part. All right. It's fine. My best friend and I have been inseparable since we were in grade school, and we've stayed close even though we went to different colleges and even though she's married now and I'm single. She just told me that she's pregnant though, and I'm afraid that this will hurt our relationship. I don't want things to change. What can I do?
I have like an immediate response, which probably isn't great. I don't know.
Let's start there.
Okay.
And then we can listen, listeners.
Listen, listener.
We will start here. And then we'll get to something.
No, it really is. It will be productive. It will be productive.
Okay.
My automatic first response was, you're already setting yourself up for disappointment and failure by having an expectation that the relationship will not change.
Bravo. That was good, Jess.
Thank you.
I like your hot take.
Thank you.
Say more.
It's going to change because when one person goes through a life-altering event, like having a baby, it changes who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And friendships, in order for them to remain, have to adapt to that change.
It's not just that it changes who you are, it changes how your life functions. So when you're single to married, that seems like such a big transition. And it is, but it's also kind of not. You still probably have room to go out as girlfriends, or maybe the three of you pal around together. When you have a baby,
Ooh.
Shit.
Oh, yeah.
Everything changes. And so your friend who you might have had a standing date for happy hour with, even after she got married, she's not going to want to go to happy hour.
No.
Not for a while. And I hate to say this, but I think that some of the burden of adjusting to that change will fall on you.
Ooh, you did. You did.
I said it.
You said it.
I think it's true.
It's true.
Your friend still needs you. She still wants you in her life. It's probably more important than ever that she has this connection to who she is and was, and that she has a sense of an identity outside of her new role. And in order to connect with her, you're going to have to go to her house. And yeah, she's going to feel, I can only speak from my experience, this felt very vulnerable to say, I want to see you, but you need to come to me. And she might or might not be able to say that to you, but if you can offer that to her, I think it will help see the friendship through this new season.
And I will add, you have to realize that right now in this current stage, you are in very different worlds. Mm-hmm. You don't understand her world, but you can learn about it by asking questions. It's okay to say, I don't know what that's like, but it does seem hard or stressful or fun or great. It's really important when women are in two life stages like this, not to go to your place of envy. Mm-hmm. I am jealous that she is able to go out all the time still and have all this free time. I am envious that she has a spouse and a beautiful baby. That I see happen a lot where envy ends up ruining the friendship.
Well, you know what's so interesting is that those are simple stories that we should not be telling about our very best friends, because the truth is the friend who's single and has all this freedom and is going out might have a deep desire in her heart to be partnered, to have a baby. The friend who's got the husband and the baby might be going, this isn't at all what I thought it was going to be, and need to be able to share more with you than just what she would post on the fucking internet.
Absolutely. I think what's important is we have to look at and identify what is the function of this friendship and know that it changes in every single season of our lives. And if we are able to evaluate the function and the role of this friendship, this person is my solid go-to person. But right now in this season, I'm going to have to give her a little grace because she has a lot going on. However, is she still the person that if I was in a crisis and something horrific happened, would she still be there for me? And we start looking at that foundation that the relationship was built on. And if we can maneuver our expectations and give our friends grace, knowing that sometimes we can expect more, sometimes we can expect less, I think that helps you identify who your ride or die or who the people that you're going to nurture those relationships and who doesn't make it to the next season of our lives.
One more thing that we just want to notice is you've already written to us and said, I'm afraid that this is going to hurt our relationship. I don't want things to change. You have a story that you tell yourself about how relationships work. And some people, when they sense some distance in the relationship, feel anxious. You start to fear that you're going to be abandoned, or they shut down and they say, you know what, she's moving on, and they just disengage. And that sense, whether it's fear or it's cutoff that could be coming up in you, that's part of the story that you bring to the table. It's not necessarily a reflection of what's happening in that moment. And that's something that we can all do a better job of looking at. What's happening for me as I feel distance or change in this relationship? It's kind of freaking me out. And what do I feel like I want to do? That might speak more to your attachment history or your own experiences with loss or change in the past than it does to what's actually happening in the moment.
This episode is brought to you by Bumble. So, you want to find someone you're compatible with, specifically someone who's ready for a serious connection, totally open to having kids in the future, is a tall, rock-climbing Libra, and loves rom-coms with vegan pizzas on Tuesdays just as much as you do. Bumble knows that you know exactly what's right for you. So whatever it is you're looking for, Bumble's features can help you find it. Date now on Bumble.
One more question for you. This is not the only life transition that we see this happen in. Any other transitions that you see that really impact the social world that our listeners might be experiencing?
I think one of the biggest ones is when you move.
Oh, yes.
Geographic location.
Yes.
Hands down, that's been my hardest one to navigate to date. I mean, I moved from the city of Chicago to the suburbs and completely uprooted all of my friendships, even though it wasn't that far away.
Right. I got another one. Divorce.
Oh, divorce is a huge one. And then it turns into, well, whose side are you on? Ooh, that's a hard one.
I got another one. You work with this every day.
Yes, I do. Grief and loss. The one thing I see every single time post-loss is the people you think are going to be the ones that show up aren't always, and the ones you never expected do. Every single time I see that, and it's fascinating.
And it also makes you say, is what I expected from this person, was that fair? Was it realistic? And if they don't meet my expectations, does that mean the friendship should be tossed? I don't think so.
I don't either. I think we can alter our expectations and keep some friendships.
Oh, so much better. Okay, one last one that people don't often think about, but I think is huge, is if you make a lifestyle change.
Yeah, talk more.
I'm thinking about maybe you partied pretty hard at some part of your life and now you're sober and all your friends are drinky friends.
That's a hard one.
I've definitely seen that come up in my practice for sure. Or maybe you join or leave a religious group. Or even something as simple as, have you ever heard people talk about the impact that one of their friends becoming a CrossFitter has on their friendship?
Oh my God, that's so funny. I feel like I have, where it's like, oh, I can't even handle it. All they talk about is CrossFit.
Right. They just want to lift heavy things.
I feel like that's one of the memes. It's also like vegan, gluten-free.
Totally.
Like I can't be friends with them because this is all they talk about. It's like, or you could just change your expectation or nicely ask them not to talk about it all the time.
Right.
Other options.
Right. Oh, so much good stuff here. Let's move on to our next listener letter.
Dear Honest Women, which is by Andrea.
It's still by me. I did it. I did it there too.
It flows beautifully.
But you guys can do that when you write to us because it will just give us a little thrill.
Or you could be like, hey, amazing, badass women.
You could be like, what's up, bitches?
What's up? What's up?
Or you could say nothing. You could say nothing. We're not going to judge it. However you want to connect, we'll be there.
Dear honest women, I've been friends with this other mom for a while. There were even years where I would have called her my best friend. But lately, things have just felt different. It's like she doesn't get me anymore. Plus, I feel like she expects way more from me than I can give. And I'm tired of feeling like a disappointment. Ugh. It's gotten to the point where the friendship feels more like a chore or something else on my to-do list. I feel really guilty when I think about hurting her feelings, but it's just not the same. Do I talk to her? Avoid her? Every option feels awkward because we're still in the same community. Help me.
Oh, sometimes it feels like this stuff would be easier to navigate if you just moved.
I'm like, just move. Just leave the community. Who cares?
It's too awkward. We can't possibly talk you through how to do this.
Nope. Sorry. Next question, please.
Okay. I think this is where we just have to destigmatize a little bit that friendships change.
Yes, they do.
They change. Sometimes you vibe with someone for a season, and sometimes for reasons you just don't even know or can't put your finger on, you just don't anymore. And that doesn't mean the friendship is bad. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means it's different. And honestly, we can expect this from some, I don't know, I would make up a percentage, but it would just be a lie. From some percentage of our relationships, they're gonna change. And maybe that vibe just isn't there anymore.
Well, and I'm thinking if it doesn't feel the same for this listener, it likely doesn't feel the same for the other person. They might both equally be uncomfortable in thinking the same thing.
Right.
I would also ask clarifying questions if I could. How often do you talk? Is it you that's always reaching out to this person? Because that matters. If you are constantly reaching out and giving 100% to this person who's not giving anything in return, well, in that scenario, I'd say stop calling.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think everything has to have a conversation. Sometimes it's just taking a step back, allowing space to just breathe.
Yeah. Getting really clear about what you feel and what you want to do is so important. There's not a right answer here because what you're going to do next has a lot to do with how you feel and what you want from the next step. If you're like this listener who says, I already feel like she expects too much from me, I don't have the same vibe, well, maybe you don't want to talk about it.
Right.
Because what's the point of going to someone and saying, I just don't feel like we vibe the same way that we used to, and I just don't really want to talk to you as much? Just don't. And then instead, you can sit with the discomfort of, this has changed. Yes, maybe I'm a people pleaser. Yes, I don't want to hurt anybody. But the best thing that I can do now is just let it change. Be friendly, be polite, but just let my actions reflect how I feel about the friendship. I do think, again, we just have to normalize the fact that there are different seasons in friendship and we have more options than stay the same way that we've always been or cut it off. What this listener is describing is a sense that like this friendship has moved from closest close to more of an acquaintance, and that's okay. Distance in the friendship can lead to many different outcomes. You can have a season of distance followed by a season of closeness again. This person might come back around. It could lead to the end of a friendship that feels good, where you're able to look back and go, that was really a wonderful relationship when it was wonderful. And then that season kind of ended and I can love it for what it was. Or it can lead to the bitter end of a friendship that feels really bad, really open, really unresolved. Speaking of bitter ends, I have our last listener question of the day. Dear honest women, recently my best friend of 25 years cut me off. No explanation, just literally stopped answering my calls and texts. I'm heartbroken and I'm so angry. What can I do here?
If you have a friend that has been your, like one of your people for 25 years and they just cut off all communication, that to me is like death.
Yeah.
They did theoretically just die in your life. They were here one day and gone the next. That is tragic.
Mm-hmm.
That is traumatic. That is going to hit the one fear I see in everybody, which is abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
You just left me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm so nervous right now and so anxious, and my chest is so squeezed up. Do you want to know why?
I don't know. Do I?
Because this was my question. This was my scenario.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It is mine. Ah, yeah.
Well, now I'm like feeling so emotional because now I know it's you and I love you. And now I just feel like, I just want to I wish I was with you. I'd give you a hug. Look, my eyes are getting teary. Ugh.
Girl.
That is hard.
So friendship that went through so many life transitions. I really thought my ride or die. Imagine that we would grow old together. And there were signs along the way, things that were not so great.
Like, can you give me an example out of curiosity?
At times of transition, like when I went back to grad school, she was basically like, well, you're going to meet a whole bunch of new friends and you're not going to have time for me. So I'm out. And I was like, what? No.
That was a really unfair narrative to throw.
Yes. And she wasn't really happy for my successes. So when something would go well for me, she would be mean.
That's a red flag.
It was a red flag.
In my 40s, I've realized that's a huge red flag.
I would say that maybe our friendship was a little codependent. I grew up codependent for sure. And so those things that sometimes would make me feel bad or abandoned would also lead me to jump in and try to save the friendship. And she had basically distanced for like a year. And she'd pop up every few months and say, we're still best of friends. It was a very effusive relationship. I mean, it was infuriating. I'd be like, you haven't been here for 3 or 4 months. And then I get this email from you that we're best of friends. And I'd had a baby. We had moved. I'd graduated graduate school. We lived within 10 minutes of one another. And that really got under my skin. And so I sent her a reply to her last email and said, I usually say when someone says, I just haven't been here for you, like, hope that's okay. I usually say, it is, no problem. It's great. Just come and go as you please. And I'm going to try to be brave enough to say, that really hurt me that you weren't around for most of the last year. And then she cut me off. After, it was definitely 25 years. I saved that email. I still have it because I needed to know, did I say the wrong thing? I spent years thinking about that and had massive, massive feelings of loss and anger. It would still come up to me like in a dream or in a passing thought. And I'd feel either like massive grief or rage. I don't know what I would do if I saw her again. I know.
Well, first, let me just say I'm so sorry you had to be on the receiving end of what sounds like her insecurities and lack of willingness to go deep within herself. You're the fallout. You've been the collateral damage to that. And I'm sorry you had to experience that because it's profoundly hurtful.
Thanks, friend.
And on the opposite side, my thought for her is, wow, like you are causing yourself so much pain. And your life could be so beautiful if you did your own inner work and allowed space for others. Like how lonely that must look like on her end. Yeah. And again, empathy versus sympathy. I have sympathy for that. The older I get, the more I lack empathy in people's unwillingness to do their own work because it's a choice.
I do feel like sometimes as we change and evolve, people don't change and evolve with us. And I think the fact that the friendship couldn't get through after all of these years, and we'd been through a lot. There were seasons when she wasn't a nice friend, but there were also seasons where she had showed up for me so mightily. And there was a little bit of bad boyfriend vibe there too. Like you really hurt me sometimes, or you're really distant, but then you show up really, really big. And there's a temptation to look back and say, it was never what you thought it was. But I'll say, for many, many years, it was a very important part of my life. And it's hard to say it was good while it was good and now it's gone. I don't know. I still have mixed feelings about it.
Well, and that's why we grieve more than death. We grieve these beautiful relationships that we thought were more or we grieve what we thought they would be or how long they would be in our lives. Like it is a true grief process.
Yeah. If you're in this situation, if you've been ghosted by a friend, just remember that abandonment like that, that's not about you. That's not saying that I'm a perfect friend and she sucks. It's not. It's just saying that walking away from someone in that way says a lot more about the walker awayer than it does about the person that's left behind.
Agree.
And I guess if you're sitting on the other side of that and you're thinking, I am done with this relationship, I don't know. I guess you can do whatever you want to do, but just remember there's someone on the other end of that. And so maybe just letting there be some distance in the relationship instead of cutting it off, it could be nicer. It's definitely nicer. I don't know. It's complicated. It's all complicated.
It's all complicated. I want to give an analogy that I give often when it comes to friendships. And I like to compare it to a garden, right? And attending to your garden. And anybody who does any gardening work knows how much time that can take. And throughout the years, what I have learned is sometimes things appear in our garden and they might look pretty, but they're actually a weed. And we have to pull those weeds out. And also, sometimes flowers kind of spread and we still have to take them out of our garden because there just isn't any room. And in order for one of the other plants to flourish, we have to remove a couple others.
Yeah, so true. Well, to the women who are listening and are thinking about these situations in their own lives, the transitions that friendships go through, the awkward situations and the way we handle these transitions in our own lives, and even the tragic loss of a friendship. We hope that this conversation has given you a little bit of comfort and a little bit of direction too. And just want to reiterate, as we always do, friendship, like everything else, is complicated, and you're not alone as you try to handle it. You've just finished an episode of the Honest Women podcast. We are so honored that you would spend this time with us. We have so much more where this came from and don't want you to miss a minute. So please, right now, take a second to follow the show. While you're there, leave us a 5-star rating and a review. It's the best way to help other women find our show so they can join the conversation. And if you have a friend who could use a little more honesty in her life, and who couldn't, send this episode directly to her. Actually, send this episode to anyone you want to. Everyone's welcome here. We'll be back next Wednesday speaking some truth and feeling some feels. Until then, hang in there, ladies. This has been Honest Women.